questions that are being asked, I'd like to mostly address, so this is my preference, is questions that affect how you walk. Questions about living this out. What he's always told me is, tell them that if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they'll be where they're supposed to be. But you need a teacher to teach you what it is you need to be doing. Okay, Melissa, you get to go first.
I realized that I have had a lot of fear all my life of failure. When I was growing up, my mother always told me I was a late bloomer, and I was always made...
you said fear of failure?
Failure, and
okay.
Like I went to school for logistics, but I was afraid I was too slow, so I didn't take the job. And I got some training in different things, but I was just always beat down as a kid. I was more like Cinderella. So when I went to the doctor, like 22 years ago, it's the day of 911, I was going to change jobs. And that was the day I was working for TV Guide. I was a technician programming satellites. And that was the day 911 happened. So then I went to the doctor, and he said I had cancer. And he told me I had 3 months to live. And so I told him, well, okay, I'll be back later. Went and ate a hamburger, and then I came back, and then my friend told me it's not your cancer, it belongs to Satan, or whatever the Christians say at that time. So I got well because I had to do something. I had surgery, and I changed my way of eating, drank green things, and I was healed. But then later, the doctor told me they wouldn't work on my back. They say your nerves are hanging on by a thread. I had 3 car wrecks that should have killed me. And so then I have degenerative bone disease, osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, according to the doctors. So I work at Volkswagen, and I'm security, and so we sit on this long bridge, and every day I watch all these people walk. They have to walk 2 or 3 miles to go into the plant. And I was like, I want to walk. I want to walk like they do. And guys run every day. And I was like, I want to run. I want to walk. And so then I kept crying out to Yahweh to help me, changing my diet and stuff. And so the other day I was telling Yahweh I want to walk. And so I was trying to badge out. My badge broke right in half. And he's like, I'll help you walk. Okay, now you got to walk all the way down here and go into the academy and go into badging and get a new badge. And so I did, and then I thought, the academy is not in the plant. So then I thought, I'm going to take a virgin walk. I'm going to walk all the way down there, and I'm going to join the gym because it's free. It's out there for the taking, right? And so I did. And so there she goes in her maiden voyage. So he helped me. And so then I joined this program. It's kind of a scam, partial, maybe not. But anyway, I did it because now I'm...
Wait, hold on. Let me just say, I don't want to interrupt. We were talking about this earlier during prayer time. She said she did, and then she said he helped her. Just want to make sure you all caught that. He didn't help her, and then she did. She did. And then she said, and he helped me. I said, I just want you all to hear how that played out. Now, go ahead.
And so anyway, I had to face my fear. And so when the doctor told me I had cancer and he had 3 months to live, if I had received it, I would have died. But at the same time, yesterday, and so then I was talking to this lady, they called me. It was part of the program I joined, and they told me to take a metabolic test. And then they called me and told me, you have a slow metabolism is slow. So then we talked about it, and so I've been trying to go to school, but I just can't focus enough to do 2 schools, get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and do all I do. And so I thought there has to be a reason why I can't do it. And so I feel like that was the answer. But they wanted to charge me like $18,000 to help me reset it. I was like, I have a rabbi, I have a gym, and I have certain diets I can do. You can keep your $18,000. But my question is, and so then I thought yesterday, I need to see, I forget what you call it, the bone specialist, and see where I am and what I can do, because I want to know, when do you use wisdom? When do you don't receive what doctors tell you, and you defy all odds and do it anyway? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. Okay, good question. Clearly, that's obviously out of chapter. No, I'm kidding.
Chapter rabbi. where I was watching this show, and they called...
3rd Rabbi, chapter 4, verse 12. Okay, so... look, I understand what you're talking about. Okay, so here's the thing that we've been talking about, it seems a lot, which is, the framework of your life is that when you look at something in a moment, everything you did up to that moment was part of the causality of where you are. But that also means that if you do things differently, it doesn't have to be that it leads to a certain end result. So what you had been doing led to a 3-month to live diagnosis. But then you decided to change some things, which would then possibly change the prognosis of where you might end up. Okay, so that's when you hear doctors tell you things, first of all, you should probably get, when it's really bad, probably get more than one opinion. But understand what they're doing is they're giving you an understanding based on where you are right at that moment, with the assumption that that's what you're going to continue doing. Okay, so that line of behavior leads to a dead in 3 months, in your case. That's what they said, right? But then you redirected that line by making changes. Okay, now it may be for some of you that by the time you hear these kind of things, it may be too late to make some changes. The body's already doing whatever it's doing, but it may be that there are changes that can mitigate the situation. So it's not that when do you take their advice and when do you don't? Well, first of all, I would take their information as information that says, if I keep doing, it's their best guess, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm gonna end up dead in 3 months, okay? Or a year, or whatever they give you as your prognosis, right? I would listen to that as, with the words, if I keep doing what I'm doing. Now, doctor, what if I made some changes? They may not be studied in that kind of stuff. They know how to look at what you've done and just tell you this is what they think the end result is gonna be based on the path you've been on up to this point. But that's when you do some research. Like the person said, we want $18,000 to reset your metabolism. And then you say, well, maybe I could do some research and figure out a cheaper way to reset my metabolism. But you got information, though, that may be useful, which is that you need to think about your metabolism being sped up in some way. You need to speed it up. Okay. So that was useful information you got from the quote-unquote medical professionals. And I happen to think they're fairly good with all their equipment of telling you what the problem is. Okay? They can see that, your enzymes and this and that means your liver's working right or not, or your kidneys are working right or not, or whatever. And so they have things that they can do diagnostically that's very helpful. I don't always choose to do whatever it is they want me to do with that information. And you have freedom to do or not do whatever you want with that information. Okay? So when it comes to wisdom would dictate that you take seriously any serious, diagnostics that comes from a doctor. But then you go ahead and do some research yourself to see what other options you might have. Look, the more dire the diagnostics, the more free you are actually to do whatever you want, because they only told you only have 3 months, so what do you got to lose but to try whatever you want to try, okay? So it actually in some ways sets you more free to be more creative in what you try to do, all right? When you're not as dire in your prognosis, you might have concerns that if I try some crazy things, it might make things worse. Well, if you're told you only have 3 months to live, what's gonna be much worse, okay? So then you felt like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and make some changes and do some things, and then that changed the direction that you were heading this way, now you're going in this way. So you've totally changed your direction, you made some choice changes. Listen, this is really important that all of you hear this. In any area of your life, at any given moment, if you start changing your behavior choices, your decisions, you will change the direction and the eventual outcome that you were headed towards, okay? People talk about, I don't know how to set goals. You're already in it, you already have goals. They're not set, but where you're headed is gonna take you to an end, that's a goal. You're already headed towards a destination. You're moving towards something. The way you eat, your relationships, what you do with your health, how you sleep or not, or move your body, whatever, all of that's leading from a health point of view towards something. Now, you can choose to aim somewhere specific, or you can just let it play out on the goal that you've already had preset because you just haven't chosen anything. But you're still going somewhere. You're not just sitting there stagnant. You're moving towards either an earlier death or a later death, a healthier life or a less healthy life, or whatever, okay? So your question about, well, when do I do this or do that? Well, I would take all the information from the doctors, and especially if it's fairly problematic, I would get more than one opinion, okay? And then I would take that information and start looking for what are all my options to mitigate this problem or fix it or solve the problem. Like, what are all the options out there? And we have an incredible questioning device that we can just search for what everybody else out there has found who's had this problem. Because praise Yah, everybody likes to post everything about whatever they found fixing their problem. So whatever your problem is, there's an abundance of opinions out there about, well, I took this product, or I did this thing, or I started fasting, or I started moving my body, or I started doing this, I started doing that, whatever it was. Did that help?
Yes, at that time, I not only beat cancer, but I lost 220 pounds. And so, I've got...
But hold on a second, but if I was looking at you back then, 220 pounds overweight, with all the other things going on in your life, why would I think you'd live more than 3 months? Do you understand what I'm saying? But you decided to totally change the entire the parameters of what's going on. You changed everything. You lost the weight. You changed all these habits. So then, of course, the outcome changed because you made some really radical changes that they did not think you would make necessarily, okay? They're not thinking that, if they would just go ahead and lose 200 pounds, they'd be fine. Well, that's not something most people are capable of disciplining themselves to do, okay? So good on you. You made these radical changes, and that changed your destiny.
Yeah, that was 22 years ago, and I've outlived 72 family members. Most of them are dead now. They died of cancer or COVID. And one thing I wanted to say is they all died, but I don't think that any of them know what I know today from coming here. I always had a heart for Yahweh, even though I couldn't stand him sometimes and I ran away and thought he was mean. I still was drawn to him always. And all the people I've lost, I don't think any one of them have been taught what you taught us. And I'm grateful for that. And, I'm always thinking, why did you wait till I'm so darn old to choose me? But you say don't do that. So I'm thankful that.
Right.
I was like, why couldn't you call me when I was 18 or 20 and I would have known this all my life? But then he also put me at Volkswagen because I do help people. I try to make a difference. There's a lot of people who are just so self-sovereign, they don't want to go the extra mile. But I make sure I get phone numbers. I make sure I found out that my strength is in networking. Like, I'm a good mediator and I can make things happen, and I enjoy that.
Well,
So I'm trying to find myself and where my talents are that I can use for Yahweh. So I'm grateful for my mishpachah and the family we have here, and that he gives me another day to try to straighten up every day. So thank you so much.
Well, I'm very proud of you. Excellent job. Now, the most important thing that you all should have got out of that, what do you think the most important point is? She didn't quit. If you had been told you had 3 months to live, what would your reaction be? Get all depressed and quit? Or would you say, no, that's what you think. I've got a different idea, okay? And so let that be an important lesson that I've been telling you this for a long time. The only thing that really ruins everything is quitting. Don't quit. Keep trying. Keep going. Keep trying. Keep going, right? Don't quit, all right? I was watching some TikTok video, and basically the guy was on there saying, wake up, grind it out. Wake up, go and grind. Wake up, go and grind. In other words, get it, go work, go work, go work, whatever it is in your life. But if you have that attitude, you're always optimistically doing it knowing it's going to get some result that you want. You don't just wake up and grind for no reason. See, a lot of you are just waking up and working and miserable because you don't have a reason to be working. It's not going towards anything, okay? It's just the hamster wheel, and you're just going around and around. Pick something to aim at. She decided she wanted to walk. Abba then stepped in and said, well, here's a situation that you can go ahead and now forces you to, if you wanted to walk, okay? Always be careful what you ask for. You want patience? He's going to put you through some stuff that, just be careful what you ask for, all right? Because you'll get it one way or the other, or the situations that will challenge you to get it, to develop it, all right? And that's really important that you understand that, okay? All right, Mr. Bohe.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
This is pertaining to last night's Torah study. And Yahweh said to Moshe, was that like a inside, the still small voice, or was that Yahweh's representative speaking with him?
It doesn't tell us. The only reason it says in Yahweh said to Moshe every place, so many verses, is because people needed to know that this wasn't Moses just coming up with something. Okay? So it's over and over again. Now, how he communicated this to Moses, it doesn't say. All right? But the reason every so many verses it'll say, and Yahweh said to Moshe, tell him this. Yahweh said to Moshe, do this. So that nobody would say, well, Moses, you just made this up and you made this up. He said, no, Yahweh told me to tell you this. Okay? Now, of course, he could have made that up too, but at least we have that emphasis that that's why it's in Scripture. But good question. We don't know how the communication was being done. He did say, though, I don't speak to Moses in dreams and visions like other people. I speak to him face to face. So he may have heard a voice in his head or out loud or whatever, giving him the information that he was hearing. So there was more of a direct communication likely happening here, because when Aaron and Miriam had a problem with Moshe, Yahweh said, look, I don't talk to my servant Moses the way I talk to other people. All right, so I'm assuming it was a little bit more intimate than that, okay? All right, Vera.
Thank you, Rabbi. My question comes from the forgiveness, resolution, and restoration teaching.
Okay.
It wasn't until the third time I listened to it that I realized I had to change my mindset to get it, to see my share in this whole situation. And the insight and the revelation was amazing. You covered 3 areas. There should be no judgment, set the person free, and the third one was reconciliation sometimes means creating a new relationship. So my question is, in this step of creating a new relationship, is it an internal process where you set up boundaries, or is it a face-to-face conversation with that person?
You're talking about reconciliation?
Yes.
Reconciliation is something you must negotiate with each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Face-to-face.
Or on the phone, or however you're going to do it. But you have to directly interact with them.
So it's nothing you do internally to kind of steer.
No, because, so there's 3 things that are here. 2 are optional, right? You must forgive. But that's something that doesn't even involve the other person. You just have to internally let go of stuff, right? By the way, for all of the people that are watching, if you have not listened to this teaching, you're missing a vital piece of your walk.
Yep.
All right? This is not like somebody needs it, but I don't. No, everybody needs this teaching, okay? You must understand forgiveness. And then you also need to understand that reconciliation and restoration are not required. They are optional, because people will get in your face and say, well, you didn't forgive me. Well, what do you mean I didn't forgive you? I forgave you. No, you didn't, because we're not restored or we're not reconciled. Well, I don't want to reconcile or restore. It doesn't mean I didn't forgive you, because people don't know what those words mean. So Vera, the point to you is, with reconciliation, right? I have forgiven you. That's my internal part. If you and I are having a problem. But to reconcile, we have to come to an agreement so that whatever went wrong doesn't keep happening. Whatever caused because reconciling means that we've now separated in some way. There's now a problem that's wedging between us. So to reconcile that, it has to be resolved and agreed upon so it doesn't keep happening. Okay? All right, does that make sense? All right? Okay, because otherwise your forgiveness is just going to keep getting re-triggered by them continuing to do the thing that was the problem. Okay, so let's say, for example, this comes up an awful lot. Let's say you have a mother or father, somebody in your family that every time you talk to them, they tend to go into this place where they're putting you down or attacking your beliefs or doing something, okay? And it hurts your feelings and they say hurtful things. So you could stop talking to them, which you may choose to do when that happens at some point, because you shouldn't sit there and just take it over and over and over again forever. But you still have to forgive them. And if they want to reconcile after you've now blocked them for a period of time, you say, that's fine, maybe I want to do that too. And if I want to do that too, you need to understand that that's not going to work if we don't get this to stop. We need to now come to a new expectations agreement, okay? So that the expectations now need to be set, okay? You know, I've told people, look, if you're going to go this way and we're on the phone, I'm just hanging up. I'm not angry. I want you to know up front, I'm just going to hang up before I get angry. I'm going to hang up before it goes any. I'm not willing to go where you want to go if that's what you want to do. If that's what you want to talk about, I'm hanging up. Okay? You want to talk about anything else? That's fine. See, we're setting expectations. Okay? If they refuse, now we have something that's not reconcilable, but I still need to forgive them. If they come back and look, they want to restore the relationship, there has to be reconciliation. We have to take something that's been a problem and reconcile it, resolve it, set new boundaries that we both agree to. Then we can restore a relationship, okay? Did that help? Did I answer it? Okay, good. All right, Lisa.
Thank you, Rabbi. This is kind of complicated. I'm going to try to make it as simple as I can.
I'll be the judge of that. No, the only reason I say that is because often enough people come to me with things they think is complicated, I think is simple, and vice versa, whatever. So just go ahead.
Okay, so I was contemplating in Matthew and
Well, that was your mistake in the first place. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
and Jeremiah about a voice heard from Ramah, Rachel crying for her children because
Right.
they were no more. And I was trying to understand the whole dynamic of Rachel and why did it say Rachel? And so I asked the question machine, and it talked about that there are many Ramas, but the one assigned to the tribe of Benjamin is near where Deborah rules as judge over Israel, and it's also the birthplace, the hometown, and the burial place of Samuel the prophet, and it's situated in the hill country of Ephraim.
What's the question, though?
Well, that one question is that why those verses in Matthew and in Jeremiah say about Ramah weeping?
Okay, so these are prophetic things that were said, so we're not always going to be sure until they play out. But we do understand, at least I know that I did this, I believe, in the Discovering Your Identity series. We did cover that verse and the prophecy from where it was spoken, which I guess was in Jeremiah. I don't remember where it was, where it said Rachel, crying out for her children. And so that connection I made in that teaching. I do not remember, that was a long time ago, how that goes. It is not, and the reason that when people are like, well, why don't you remember? Because it's not significant to your walk. Okay, it's interesting information we'd like to kind of box and put in somewhere in our brains, but it's not significant to your walk.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, then
But the reason it's in Matthew and in the prophets is Matthew's trying to say that this is connected to a fulfillment or what was going on when Jeremiah said it.
Okay. And I think in Matthew it's connected to Yeshua and the killing of the innocents in that.
And by the way, prophecy is not generally linear. It means that it doesn't just point at one thing happening. So it may be fulfilled in that way, it may have been fulfilled in other ways along the way, all right? We've all been waiting on Mashiach. We have Yeshua now, but when they were all for generations waiting on Mashiach, there'd been many Mashiachs. Moses was a Mashiach. Joseph, in a sense, was a Mashiach. King Cyrus was a Mashiach. He was actually called a Mashiach, okay? So there can be multiple fulfillments of something pointing to an ultimate fulfillment that we may or may not actually know what we're looking for that ultimate fulfillment. Some of the things you read in the New Testament are to point out, hey, this is what that ultimately was talking about, okay? So when it quotes Isaiah, where it talks about, and the virgin shall give birth, and you shall call his name Emmanuel, well, that actually was fulfilled in the next chapter of Isaiah, okay? But it was pointing to Yeshua. Because people don't understand, he wasn't talking about something for those people. Because remember, if you read, I think it's chapter 7 going into chapter 8 in Isaiah, that the king is afraid that they're about to get overrun and destroyed. And so, no, we're going to give you a sign that you're going to be okay. Well, that sign can't come several hundred years later. Okay, it had to come right away, or it wasn't going to be any use to King Ahaz. Okay, because Ahaz is the king who's having the problem. Okay? So when you're looking at things, you have to look at it through that sort of lens, that there can be other fulfillments of things. So when you put it into the great question machine, okay, and you get your answer, you're going to get all kinds of theories and things that people have come up with throughout the generations. Okay?
Okay, well, so all my contemplating led to this question, and it is it possible that Jacob was wrestling with the messenger from Yahweh over a woman? And that would be, who would be the foremother of the Mashiach? Could it be between Leah and Rachel? Because Rachel was not even buried with Jacob, and she was buried in Ramah, which is near Bethlehem, which is where Yeshua was born, in Bethlehem. So that's my blue mind putting.
Okay, well, I understood almost everything you said, but I'm not really seeing how that connects to wrestling that Jacob did. Because Jacob's wrestling didn't have anything to do with a woman or the mother, ultimately, of Messiah. There's no connection there that I can see.
Okay, I was thinking there was maybe a possible connection that he was having an argument wanting Rachel to be the foremother of Mashiach.
No, this had more to do with what was happening where he was about to meet his brother and his fears and the struggles that he was having internally meeting Esau, okay? Because that's when the wrestling takes place. All right, okay.
Okay, so I do have a question, which is about thoughts. So
I'm against them. Okay, I'm for them.
So what do you do when a thought keeps, I really hate autocorrect. I meant to put popping your mind, but instead it's pooping your mind.
It's probably both correct.
Yeah, I agree. When you always have unwanted thoughts, it's like it's always taking a crap in there and you got to clean it up. It's exhausting. So when a thought keeps...
I wonder if poopy thoughts is the cause of bad breath. I don't know. Just, my brain just went very yellow for 5 seconds. Okay. That's it. But I can't say that out loud. Okay.
So when a mind keeps popping into your mind, that thought you have where you know it's wrong, it's against Torah, and you keep taking those thoughts captive. You're aware, but it still keeps coming back. Like, is it the emotions that are bringing it back?
Yes.
Is there Of course there is.
Okay.
Is there an effective way, to address this before it festers so you don't end up acting on that thought? That's my question.
All right, so you have to know what you're addressing. You're not addressing the thought, you're addressing the emotion connected to it, okay? Because remember, you're not talking about the initial thought. You're talking about a thought that keeps reoccurring, and it's reoccurring because once you held on to that thought and an emotion got attached to it, I want that, I like that, or whatever it is, right? So it's that desire that's connected now to the thought. So now you have to disconnect the emotion from the thought so you can actually take it back into captivity. So you got to almost surgically, you have to pull them apart, which means you have to now create an opposite emotion to cancel that one out. When we're dealing with these thoughts, right, and it has an emotion, think of it like, if you remember learning, positive and negative numbers and positive and negative things. So if you have a positive 4 and you put a negative 4, they balance out to 0, right? So if you have a desire emotion, you need an emotion not desiring that's equally strong or stronger to balance or cancel out the desire. So if you want to do something, this is part of the reason why you don't accomplish things you really want to do, because you have negative emotions that are stronger than your desire to do it. Well, I want to get in shape. Yeah, but your negative emotions about the things necessary to do to get in shape, maybe eating differently and getting up and doing exercise or whatever it is, are more negative thoughts in you that are stronger than your desire to get in shape, okay? So when you have a thought that keeps popping up, okay, she's sitting over here, that's why I'm pointing that way. If you have a thought that keeps popping up, it's because you don't have anything to balance that thought out. So it's going to keep popping up until you've canceled it out with the opposite charged thought, so to speak. You have this thought that keeps getting in your way because it keeps saying, I don't want to do that, but you need to do it, and I don't want to do that. Well, then you need to figure out how to want it more than you don't want it. Reverse that also. You have this thing that keeps popping up that you want, but you shouldn't have it, or you shouldn't do it. Well, now you got to generate a stronger emotion to balance that says, no, we don't want to do that. okay? Did that help? All right, but it's not the thought, it's the emotion, okay? Now, if the thought comes in initially and you take it and discard it right away, it's not gonna keep popping back up and being a problem. But you've had this thought multiple times and didn't fully discard it because there was something tempting about it in the first place. So it went into to be dealt with later pile, and anytime a temptation might pop up again, it's gonna just rear its ugly head until you finally get to the point where, but I don't want that anymore. Okay, I really don't. This is what happens to people that quit, but they don't really quit smoking. And then a couple of months later, they're smoking again, because they really didn't quit. They stopped because they kind of knew they had to stop, but they still wanted it. And they hadn't balanced it out with a strong enough, I don't want it, okay? Which is why a lot of the people that I know that have quit, for example, smoking, they just quit. They didn't have to like wean off and do this, that. They just quit. Why? Because at some point, they actually really didn't want that anymore, more than they wanted it, okay? And that's how you balance these things out. It's a battlefield of emotion. Now, the mind has to decide what you actually want. So you already knew that because you said, I keep having these emotionally charged thoughts of things I know are not for Torah, they're against Torah, I really shouldn't do them. So your mind is already working just fine, but it doesn't have enough power because the emotion's still there. So you have to, instead of allowing an emotion, choose one and build its strength, okay? So you have to make a case for why that's not a good idea. We shouldn't do it beyond just what you already know, because what you already know isn't getting you anywhere. It keeps popping back up. It's not enough. You got to build a stronger case. All right? All right. When I was, I don't know, this goes back about 25 or more years. I had a colitis problem. And I went on a very strict diet to work with that. And I got it to heal up and get that all worked out. And it was a fairly bad case of it, but I had to be incredibly strict in my diet. And I can tell you right now, if anybody accidentally even put something in my food, I would throw a fit because I was not, my fear and strength of not wanting to have this thing keep going was stronger than my desire for any food. And a lot of stuff I really liked, I couldn't eat, okay? I mean, I was really strict. So strict that I almost got in a big fight with my mother-in-law because I was making this very special organic like chicken soup thing that I was supposed to have with only certain ingredients in it. And she just saw it and thought, well, of course it needs to have these ingredients in it. And she threw stuff in there, ruining my soup. Now, she wasn't trying to cause a problem. She didn't understand. But I had to throw out the soup or have everybody else eat it because I couldn't eat it at that point. All right? I mean, I could have, but I couldn't. You understand what I'm saying? If you have enough motivation, you'll make the changes. Sometimes, though, you have to generate the motivation. I had an obvious motivation. I had this terrible colitis problem. I'd lost 31 pounds. I was not doing well, okay? So that being said, okay, I'm like 190 now. I was 139 then, okay? Yeah, oh my gosh, she's right. I looked terrible. I looked so thin, okay, where I was, okay? I went from 170 to 139, okay? Now, at 170, I was pretty good weight for me. It was a little over, I probably was better than 160s, but still, 140 was a little low, okay? Now, that being said, though, I had a strong motivator. What if you don't have a natural motivator? Then you have to generate one yourself. You have to build a case to be that strong a motivator, okay? Did you take the Level Up class? No. See, all of you took the Level Up class, you remember what I talked about in the goals, right? You got to talk about things in your mind like, okay, what am I going to gain if I win this battle? What am I going to lose if I don't win this battle? What am I willing to give up in order to win this battle or to have my goal? Right? We did that in the goal setting sessions. Remember that? Okay? So those are really powerful for people who took the Level Up class, to go through all the questions that you need to reprogram your mind to focus right on what you want. Okay? So I gave you some of those hints right there. Why do I want to get rid of this thought? What's wrong with this thought? Okay, what is it going to cost me if I don't get rid of it and accidentally give into it? Okay, these are all things that help you motivate yourself. And what am I willing to give up in order to beat this and win? I mean, because everything has a price, okay? So that's just some of the content from that class. All right, Ashley and Michael.
I wanted to ask you, and I've been this question for several months now, and every time I try to write it down and formulate it, It does not come out the way I want it to, so I'm hoping you can reach into my brain and help me.
I just need some hand sanitizer.
Yeah. Some right there.
It just sounded kind of gross to reach into somebody's brain. I don't know.
You know what
Nothing
I mean.
personal, just it sounded.
Thank you for breaking the ice there. I had came across one of my favorite YouTube for prepping and stuff, and the gentleman says something. I've kind of heard it before. Elder talked about it a little bit with the fruit teaching, and you talked about it kind of today. But apple trees don't eat their own apples, and pear trees don't eat their own pears. As in, like, the fruit is not for the tree, it's for other entities. Like, my gift isn't for me, it's for the kingdom to bring glory to Elohim. And I'm wondering...
But you do that by sharing it with others, right?
Yes. But my question is, I'm in the new growth in my walk where I am trying to be happy about sharing my gifts again, but because I've had a lot of things broken down or wasn't good enough for people or whatever have you, I don't know the right word to say it, I'm nervous about bringing those gifts forward and giving them to others because they're not for me, because I know holding on to them, I'm rotting them. And I don't want to do that, but at the same time, I'm scared of being vulnerable. So how do I do that, and how do I also face the possible rejection for it?
All right. As always, you guys like to ask multiple questions in one question. No one apologize for it. Everybody seems to do that. Sometimes they think they're asking one question, but they're not. Okay, so you got more than one thing here. So the first thing is you probably should talk to somebody like me about what it is you would like to do so we can prepare yourself mentally and understand the right way to go about sharing whatever it is you want to share with people, right? Only because you're afraid. I'm not saying all of you need to talk to somebody before you do something, but I mean, if you have these concerns, then it might be good to walk through that with somebody like a counselor who can walk you through how that should go in terms of what you're going to do and an appropriate way to do it, whatever it is, that might minimize the chance of these other problems. And then the other thing is the fear of rejection, okay?
Not by the people I'm giving it to, but by the people that mean the most that are not actually the ones I'm giving it to. Like my biological father. Well, I'm afraid that you would, or Ema, or someone in leadership.
Might be reject you because you...
Might think it's silly or stupid, or I shouldn't do that, or whatever have you. And I know you wouldn't actually do that. But
okay, hold on. Everybody pay attention. I'm going to counsel her, but I'm going to counsel all of you. All of you do silly things. All of you do stupid things. All of us. Okay? All of you will be rejected, either personally or what you try to do will be rejected and not you at some point, multiple times. We have to get over that fear of it. It's going to happen. So we need to not be afraid of it, but we have to repackage it. So if I reject your gift, that may or may not mean I'm rejecting you. So we have to not be so quick to jump to a conclusion, okay? It may be the gift that I just don't have any interest in, or it just doesn't work for me, or whatever it is. Some people will take that very personally. Okay, well, Rabbi, I bought you that shirt and you never wear it. Well, because I didn't like it. Well, why didn't you say something? Because you couldn't handle it. Okay, so I didn't say anything. All right, but I'm just saying is we have to be able to handle rejection in all of the different manifestations of it, because it may not be you. Most of the time, it's not you that's being rejected. It feels like it. But I talk to a lot of people who deal with rejection, and when we actually break down some of the scenarios, they're not actually being directly rejected. And if they are being directly rejected, it's not even them that's being rejected, it's being used as a manipulative tool. The person is threatening to reject you or using that feeling of rejection to manipulate you. So they're not actually just rejecting you, they're using it in a much more insidious way, okay? I know that's what you're afraid of, okay? Because that's been done, okay? You've experienced that. So stuff happens, we've talked about that, and sometimes I guess it ends up in your brain, that's what, you know. Okay, but stuff happens, and And we need to be able to be okay that that's what happens. I mean, adverse things do happen. Things you do not desire are going to happen. And they're going to happen sometimes from people closest to you. Okay? I mean, I have so many people that I interact with that are having meltdowns. I'm like, what are you upset about? Well, I disappointed you. I said, what gave you that idea? Well, you put 2 and 2 together and got 5 and just thought I disappointed you. I was disappointed, but I wasn't. But you added it together and you got what you got, but it wasn't the right answer. Don't assume, don't just read people's faces and expressions. You just don't know what's going on. I've had people think I was all this or that and the other thing, and I had a completely other thing happening in my head that maybe looked like that on my face, but I was dealing with something else. But because of where you were and how you interpreted it, you got it wrong, okay? But even if you are being rejected, you're going to be. I get rejected all the time, okay? Even if you do the best you can, people are going to be disappointed in you or with you, whichever one, okay? People are going to think you're silly, think you're foolish, people are going to think you're stupid, okay? There's no changing that. And guess what? Sometimes you are. And when you are, take a laugh, own that it's you, and then do what you can to fix it, okay? All right?
So then let me ask you, I don't want to word this real quick. Then is it wrong, or because you had inspired something in me with the level up class that I was doing when I was younger. I didn't know it was called philanthropy back then, but because of how I was being grown up and what I was seeing, I wanted to help other people out. So at 8, I started going door to door because I didn't have my own money technically. I went door to door and said, hey, I signed up for like Feed the Children or whatever. And I said, here's this kid I'm sponsoring, but I don't have any money. Can you help me? And like I was able to do it every week, same people, all the time. And then it manifested into my own 501. I can't pronounce it, but yeah, thank you. Yeah. When I was an adult, and I called it Making Sense, and I was helping young single mothers that had no support, that had children and under a year old, and I would able to raise funds to go buy them clothes or formula or cribs or whatever have you. And I forgot how that made me feel. And then a year or 2 ago, when you did the level up class, you said, what's your goal? What do you want to do? And I remember filling out philanthropy. Right. And I want to know, I would like to get to that point because I don't want to keep these apples for me because they're just going to hang on the tree being rotted.
Okay, well, that's something that we could talk about, in a more one-on-one session. But the idea that if you want to be philanthropic, if you want to do anything, whatever it is, some people are going to mock you. Some people are going to think you're foolish. Some people are going to, anything you want to do good, somebody's going to try to tear it down. Anything, I promise you. Okay, and so it doesn't matter what it is that you want to do. The question is this, when you mentioned about this fear, the problem that you have, all of you, is that you don't have enough people that are healthy enough in their relationships with you, that they love you, that you should know that you can deal with, in other words, that you could do something dumb, and they'll tell you it was dumb, but you're not going to lose their love, they're not going to reject you. But in the past, you've had people that were not mature enough in their relationships that they would just reject you, or they would mistreat you, or they would shun you, or they would use it as a manipulative device, okay? So the sad part is you don't have enough experience to know what it should look like. Probably most of the time, if you ask yourself how you would deal with somebody if you were on the other side of it, okay? That's how you should believe that people should treat you. If you would say, well, of course I wouldn't reject them. Well then, if somebody rejects you, they're not healthy, not you. They're the one that's the problem, not you, okay? If you wouldn't have rejected somebody for doing that, you wouldn't have mocked them for doing that, you wouldn't have belittled them for doing that, well then, you haven't found healthy people that also wouldn't do that, okay? Does that help?
Yes, and if I may say one last thing, I want to apologize to you, but mostly to the little girl, Ashley. Sorry I took so long to do my pledge. That's one of the things I kept hearing Paul's voice in my head saying, don't do it. Don't use that for that. And I just want to apologize, taking forever. But I'm happy I did it.
Okay, and of course, I don't care. So.
I know, but I also had to say it for me too.
I understand. Okay, but I mean, I think that's part of the problem that we have is you know, I mean, I can't even imagine, not imagine, I can't think of how many, but there's several of you that have come up to apologize for something that you did that you thought was an offense that was from whatever weeks ago. I didn't even pay any attention. But I'm glad that you apologized because you needed to, okay? So that's, but also the reason you apologized wasn't just because you realized you made a mistake or did something that could have been, you know, received a certain way, but you still had a fear because other people you would have done that to would have really made you pay a price, okay? Okay, and so when you come to me, I'm like, what? Well, you're not mad at me? I'm like, for what? Because I did this the other day to you. I was like, what? You know, okay? When you're healthier in your maturity with those kind of things, it's not gonna create that negative response on that level, okay? I mean, ask Elder, he'll tell you, I don't carry any grudges or hold anything against anybody for more than 3 seconds, okay? If that long. If I'm gonna hold it, I'm gonna be mad at you for a whole 5 seconds. And in your face right there so you know it. Otherwise, it's gone, okay? Or it just wasn't anything worthy of being even worried about, okay? All right? So that doesn't mean don't ever come up and apologize. Just don't be surprised when I look at you like I have no idea what you're apologizing for. And you're like, you don't? I'm like, no. Well, the other day when I did this, I'm like, and so? You know? Okay? I'm not that thin-skinned like maybe a lot of people in your life have been, okay? The sad part is, and that's why you need to all grow into this so everybody else can have the right experience. Sad part is we don't have enough mature people in our life that react properly to things, so we're always afraid of the overreact, okay? Anybody had overreacting in their lives? Parents, friends, whatever, okay? And so we're always afraid of that. We assume everybody's gonna overreact like that because we don't assume it as an overreact, we assume it's the normal reaction. Well, of course they're gonna hate me and reject me and be mad at me. Because you've come to me many times in the years that we've now been going, you're not mad at me? I'm like, for what? You know? And then you explain, and I'm like, no, okay? So, but in your life, others would have been mad at you for whatever that was, okay? We have to get past that. Okay, we have to get past that. Start to realize that some of these things that you're worried about, if they happen, the fault is in them, not you, okay? Not everything, some things are your fault. What I'm just saying is, maybe you did do something stupid, but the way they reacted, which might be inappropriate, is their fault. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay?
Yes, sir. Then you just gave me something else to work on. I need to figure out what was actually stupid of me and what was stupid of the other person then, and try to forgive myself and let go of the other stuff.
I want to fix your language there.
Yes,
Okay?
please.
You may have done something stupid, right? Ill-advised, whatever. Their reaction wouldn't be also stupid. Their reaction would be inappropriate. Their reaction would be immature. The reaction would be other words. I wouldn't call it stupid, okay? You did something that was something you shouldn't have done, okay? That's what we would call something that was stupid. Fine. If I get all upset about it, that's not me being stupid, that's me being immature, that's me being overreacting, that's me, whatever. There's other words. I'm just saying this, let's get the language right. So we're describing things correctly, okay? Okay. All right, so we're not labeling it wrong. I know what I did. The way you responded to it may or may not have been appropriate. That's a better word, I think, okay? All right, Janet, continuing in group therapy.
Yeah, how do you know that?
Because I know once we go in that direction, you like to jump in with that stuff, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of had my question yesterday, but so I'm going to bring it up today. Okay, so I've been working on myself. So I know my primary language is red, color is red, right? So I went to the color code and whatever the name of the book is, and I went. You know how they have a list of like the positive, negative for each of them. So I went to the red, and I also have a lot of blue. But I was looking at the ones that I can recognize in myself that I'm falling into.
Right.
And so a few things here. So for the reds, you always have to be right. You tend to be selfish. You don't express your feelings and emotion. Well, that not too much. You can be insensitive. And then for the blues, I recognize you can be a perfectionist, control freak. And I I recognize in myself sometimes I can do that. Okay, so
Okay, hold on. Let me interrupt.
Yes.
Everybody needs to hear this, all right? There are probably in the book at least 40 positive and 40 negative traits to each color, okay? There's a whole list of them on the page, okay? You do not, if you're whatever color you're talking about, have all or necessarily a certain number of the positive or negative traits. So when she says any of these negative things that she's seeing maybe in herself and you're the same color, doesn't mean you have those same negative traits. Okay, I wanna make sure everybody understands that. So reds can definitely be angry. That doesn't mean all reds are angry, or selfish, or whatever it is, right? All blues are not whatever, perfectionist, this, that, and the other thing. There's a tendency where certain things are more about that particular color, but not all negative or positive traits are expressed, just because you have that color. These are things that are the range of spectrum of things that you may, tend to be positive and negative. Okay, just putting that out there.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, but I'm working
I know
on-
you understood it, but I want to make sure when you start hitting these things that somebody's going, well, I'm that color and I'm not that. Well, that's okay. You don't need to be that particular aspect of the color. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but see, it started to get me thinking about this because I not have a whole lot of white, and I do have some yellow. But was looking at these other colors, and I was like, well, I don't necessarily see those negative traits in me, but maybe I do. But the point with the whole thing was I noticed that with all the negative side of the colors, they were all related to selfishness. Like all
Or
about
being
you.
about you.
About you, exactly. So I was like, okay, so definitely I need to work on that.
Well, let me clarify that
Yes,
for
yes,
everybody.
yes.
This is really important. We have words that we tend to, by default, have a very limited definition for, okay? So I've said this, for example, when we're reading in Scripture and it talks about lust, almost everybody immediately thinks sexual, when lust could be for almost anything you just overly desire and crave, right? Well, the same thing with selfish. Selfish could be like, I want everything. It's a mine, my, me, that way. Or selfish could mean that it's about me. I need you to behave this way because I need you to behave this way. I need the world to be this way. So that doesn't look like selfish. As a matter of fact, it looks very outgoing because I'm going to be thinking or telling you I'm helping you when really I'm helping me because I need you to have this and be this way so that I'm okay. It looks, and so I can tell a blue person who's doing that, you're incredibly selfish. Like, no, you're also the most generous person I know. But everything is about you as an aspect of selfish, meaning you need the world to be that way. That's why you're sticking your fingers in there, trying to help, quote unquote. But really, you're not helping them, you're helping you more than you're helping them because you need it to be that way. You need them to have that thing or be whatever it is, okay? So I just want to make sure that when she uses that phrase, selfish, a lot of you will be thinking, no, I'm very generous. The most selfish people I know are also the most generous people I know. Okay? Because generosity and selfishness are not, opposites necessarily, unless it's the one aspect that we're talking about. Okay? The kid that doesn't want to share his toy is different than the kid saying, you need to have my toy and play with it the way I tell you to play with it, and now that's very selfish. That's not the same selfishness like it's mine, you can't have it. See, the other one looks very generous. Okay? So, example, all right? One year, the children had my son and came up with a game for them to play at the feast, at Sukkot. And they were loving this game. He came up with some game, okay? And they were all running around doing stuff. But then they decided to change the rules because they like doing things a little bit differently, and they tweaked his game. He had a complete meltdown. Why? Because even though he was being generous of providing them with this thing, it had to be his way. That was his blue side there. Instead of just recognizing they're all having a great time, what difference? But that's not the right way to play it. Wasn't the point to have fun though? Okay? So that's where that negative aspect turns into a selfish moment in being very generous. He was providing them with something to do, they were loving it, but they're not doing it my way. It's my thing. Why are you doing it that way? Okay? So I just want to make sure that's clear, because a lot of you suffer from being incredibly selfish while thinking you're incredibly generous. Okay? And you got to work on that. All right, Janet.
Right. Okay, so, oh my gosh, I wish I could put it all in so clear so you can help me with this. But so going back to what I was trying to ask yesterday, okay, so I was thinking about a lot of these behaviors, actions, whatever we problematic for us and for other people, they're coming from a lot of times from beliefs, obviously thoughts, and things that probably happened in the past that they're probably been stored. So I was thinking about the unconscious mind, which is the question. This is where I'm going to the question, okay?
Right.
But the question, so allow me, please. Okay, so the unconscious mind is that part of the mind that processes information and influences behavior, like I said, and it stores memories and beliefs, and monitors what information goes into the rational or conscious mind and affects thoughts, emotions, etc. I'm not going to go more with that. So
Wait. I just had an interesting thought.
Okay.
We call it an unconscious mind, but it generally is actively functioning when you are consciously unconscious. In other words, your conscious mind is unconscious. Do you see how I played that through? So you think of unconscious meaning it's not aware. It's just kind of running in the background. But when you shut down your conscious, active, proactive ruling of yourself, the unconscious mind is completely running the show. So as long as you're conscious, you can have some effect and control over the unconscious mind just running the show. Did you follow all that? Okay, so basically you have to be unconscious to let the unconscious mind rule. Do you understand how that just played out? Okay? The more awake and aware you are, the less the unconscious mind can just run the show. Does that make any sense?
It does. I mean, it does make sense. It's a little bit going with the question I had. So there are a lot of processes, a lot of patterns that are played in the background that is behind a lot of things that we do. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of what you read about, and you even have said that, when you make it conscious and really operate from that part of your brain. So that lands into my question, which is about hypnosis, right? Because I've been doing that. I've been doing the training for months. I have not done yet, but I've started to do some of that with my clients, and I've noticed a huge shift with that. But there is people who oppose that, right? Because they say, "Oh, you're inviting, especially Christian, you're inviting the demons into your life," or any of that. So I just wanted you to. Tell me, how do I respond? I don't even offer it to my clients because some of them are like a little bit weird with that. I mean, and they call me for other things, not for that. But I do believe that it's a very, very powerful way to heal. So how do you, I guess, offer that or present that in a way that is more accepted, I guess?
All right, so first of all, hypnosis, if it's being done right, is simply trying to communicate with the non-conscious part of your mind, okay? So it's not communicating with demons or some other thing. It's still trying to get access to you at a different level. Is that right, Janet? Yes. Okay. So that being said, though, when you are doing therapies, this is just me when I work with anybody, I make an effort with what I normally do and what they normally expect, and if that's not getting a result, then I may offer a different modality. And so that's when you might bring up hypnosis, saying, hey, we're doing EMDR, it's not working, we're doing brain spotting, that's not working, whatever it is, maybe we want to try this. So you're just giving them another option other than what they thought they were coming for, okay? Okay, so I don't necessarily bring that up, I wouldn't necessarily bring that up with people that you've already been working with because they already know what you do and what they expect from you. But then you can say, look, we've kind of hit a roadblock here. I've got another thing that we might try that might actually make a difference if you're willing to do that. Do you want to do that, right? Okay, does that answer the question? Now, with new clients, you let them know that this is on the menu. So they already know it's one of the things that you could do, all right? That way, they already know that these are things that are available, therapies.